West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Banjul, 1 p.m. in Lagos, Nigeria. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Nigerian government begins arrangements to evacuate its citizens from South Africa amid rising xenophobic acts in the country. Mixed reactions trail Senegalese President Diomaye Faye's media address over governance and internal political friction.
Through this speech, he seems to be turning the page on the PASTEF program to embark on another path, which consists of preparing another coalition to be ready for the next elections.
Tensions escalate in Bamako as unknown armed men adopt a veteran politician and lawyer Mutanga Tall. Ghana celebrates a significant leap in World Press Freedom Index, while Gambian journalists shut down proposed state controls.
It's actually highlighting an improvement within Ghana's media landscape.
The government's proposal for a new set of regulations contradict international standards of freedom of expression.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for joining us. The federal government of Nigeria has commenced arrangements to evacuate its citizens from South Africa amid rising anti-foreigner tensions in the country. At least 130 individuals have already registered for voluntary repatriation flights. The development follows renewed protests and incidents of xenophobic rhetoric in parts of South Africa, particularly in Pretoria and Johannesburg. Demonstrators have blamed undocumented migrants for economic hardship, unemployment, and insecurity. Imo Edit explains the details.
In Africa's most industrialized economy, a troubling pattern has persisted for years. Waves of violence targeting foreign nationals. This is a xenophobic crisis in South Africa, and it continues to raise difficult questions about identity, inequality, and survival. So how did it start? The roots go back to the years following the end of apartheid in 1994, as South Africa opened up. It became a destination for migrants from across the continent, many seeking safety, jobs, and opportunity. But over time, deep economic frustrations began to grow. High unemployment, poverty, and inequality created tension in many communities. In some cases, foreign nationals were blamed for taking jobs, running small businesses, or even contributing to crime, claims that are often exaggerated or unsupported were powerful enough to fuel anger. So how are West Africans affected? For many from countries like Nigeria, Ghana, and Senegal, South Africa has long been a place of business and ambition. West Africans are active in sectors like retail, telecommunications, and informal trade. But during xenophobic flare-ups, they often become direct targets. Shops owned by Ghanaians, Nigerians, and other West Africans have been vandalized. Some individuals have even faced harassment, displacement, or even deadly attacks. Meanwhile, actions taken so far by Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okejo-Oblakwa, includes engagement with South African authorities and the provision of consular assistance. For her part, the Nigerian government has commenced arrangements to evacuate its citizens from South Africa, with at least 130 individuals already registered for voluntary repatriation flights amid rising anti-foreigner tensions in the country. At its core, this crisis is not just about migration, it's about economic pressure, governance challenges, and the struggle to define belonging in a rapidly changing society.
Imo Edit with those details. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, the political horizon is already shifting as cracks deepen within the African Democratic Congress, ADC. The party, once seen as a potential third force capable of challenging the ruling APC in 2027, is showing signs of a major internal shake-up. These developments have raised serious questions about the potential disintegration of the wider opposition coalition before the next general elections. Our correspondent, Yechenu Sasetu, reports.
The opposition African Democratic Congress is facing mounting internal crisis with fresh indications that key figures are beginning to exit the party amid unresolved leadership disputes and legal battles. Peter Obi has confirmed his decision to leave the party, a move widely seen as a major blow to the coalition's strength ahead of 2027. Meanwhile, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso has denied reports of an immediate realignment, insisting that no final decision has been taken, even as speculation grows over his possible exit and that of other major players. Political commentator Kunle Adeniyi attributes the growing wave of defections to the party's internal crisis and unresolved disagreements.
In the genesis of it all, there is already crisis in the ADC. Yes, the Supreme Court might have given a judgment that has ordered that status quo remain, allowing the David Mark-led ADC to still be recognized for now. But there is a danger that the uhuru and the magic that may befall the uncertainty of the ADC may happen at the Federal High Court, which the Supreme Court referred the issue back to.
He warns that the instability could have serious consequences for the opposition's chances in the 2027 elections.
But as to whether or not it is going to lead to the disintegration of the ADC, it may not. The only difference is that we are likely to get back to the era of having split votes that we saw in 2023, which gave the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the upper hand in the election.
Analysts say the possible exit of key figures could weaken the coalition and further fragment opposition efforts at a critical time. For WADR, Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja.
Here in Senegal, reactions are pouring in following the major media interview granted by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Over the weekend, the Senegalese leader reviewed his months in office, notably addressing his increasingly strained relationship with Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. While the president framed this as a transparent update on current affairs, both the opposition and civil society groups have voiced sharp criticisms. Francis Boniface tells us more in this report.
President Bassirou Diomaye Faye granted an interview lasting over 2 hours to 3 Senegalese media outlets. He touched upon several topics, including the economy, politics, and justice. However, the intervention left a taste of unfinished business, according to opposition figure Tieno Bokoum, president of the movement, Agir le Leader.
Today, the central issue in this country is the economic situation, the difficulties that the Senegalese people are going through. We believe there is indeed a sense of unfinished business, but even worse, there is a deep disappointment regarding his approach, especially at a time when we were expecting solutions to lead the Senegalese out of this situation.
The Senegalese president also commented on maintaining the presidency's political funds. While in opposition, he had promised to abolish them. Today, however, he deems them necessary. This shift was denounced by Babakar Ba, president of the Forum de Justiciable, a civil society organization.
We heard the president say that there will be a discreet use of these funds. This is a disappointment to me because it encourages opacity regarding public funds that belong to the Senegalese people. Their use must be carried out with the utmost transparency.
Bassirou Diomaye Faye also acknowledged disagreements with his Prime Minister, Ousmane Sonko. According to Moussa Diaw, a political analyst, the Senegalese president is taking actions that deviate from the trajectory of PASTEF, his original party.
Through this speech, he seems to be turning the page on the PASTEF program to embark on another path, which consists of preparing another coalition to be ready for the next elections, specifically the local elections of 2027 and the presidential elections of 2029.
Regarding the reform of Articles L29 and L30 of the Electoral Code, which concern the conditions of ineligibility, the Senegalese president stated that he did not see the urgency for such proposed legislation.
Francis Boniface with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Moving to the Central Sahel region, particularly in Mali, the political atmosphere in Bamako is charged with concerns following the adoption of prominent lawyer and political figure Moutaga Tall. Known for his vocal criticism of the ruling military authorities, Tal was taken from his home by unidentified armed men over the weekend. This situation unfolds as the government grapples with coordinated insurgents attacks. Abdullahi Hassan tells us more.
According to sources close to the case, Mutanga Tal was abducted during the night between Saturday and Sunday by two armed men. The lawyer was reportedly forced into a vehicle without license plate. For now, his destination remains unknown. At this stage, no official explanation has been provided regarding his disappearance. In a statement released on Sunday, his family condemned the opacity surrounding the case, lamenting the inability to obtain any information on his place of detention, his state of health, or his legal situation. Mutanga Tal is a member of the M5 RFP movement, a key actor in the protest that led to the ouster of former President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Initially an ally of the military leaders who seized power in 2020, he later distanced himself, becoming a vocal critic of the regime. He has been involved in some of the most sensitive legal cases. For instance, he is leading the defense of former Prime Minister Musa Mara, who has been in detention for nearly a year, as well as several senior officers accused of attempting to overthrow the current authorities. Mutanga Tal has also initiated several legal proceedings challenging the dissolution of all political organizations in the country by the transitional authorities. His abduction comes in a context where several military personnel and former soldiers have been arrested in recent days. According to a statement from the prosecutor at the Bamako Military Tribunal, they are accused of complicity in the April 25 attacks that targeted several regions of Mali.
Abdullahi Hassan reporting there. In neighboring Niger, the military-led government is tightening its grip on religious spaces. A new directive from the Ministry of Interior now strictly prohibits sleeping in mosques or Quranic schools across the country. The order, sent via radio message to regional governors and prefects, has been framed as a security measure to monitor religious learning centers. Christopher Aticho gives the details.
The decision is aimed at reasserting full control over public spaces. Henceforth, mosques and Quranic schools can no longer be used as places of lodging in Niger. As a result, every religious facility must be systematically closed and cleared immediately after prayers. The measure was introduced without priority consultation with some religious leaders. Those we reached for comment expressed their disagreement but declined to elaborate further. While some religious figures say they do not fully understand the move, the Nigerian government appears determined to act preemptively and prevent the shelter of suspicious individuals in places of worship. The initiative is also intended to allow for better monitoring of gatherings and to prevent potential infiltration. This security-driven measure comes at a time of heightened concerns in the region, particularly as neighboring Mali within the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, which it shares with Niger, recently experienced coordinated attacks across several regions. A similar measure has been implemented in Burkina Faso as part of the newly launched Webga 2 operation, aimed at strengthening community involvement in the fight against terrorism.
A report filed by our Niamey correspondent, Yakuba Habibulai, presented by Christopher Aticho. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Nigerian government begins arrangements to evacuate its citizens from South Africa amid rising xenophobic acts in the country. Mixed reactions trail Senegalese President Diomaye Faye's media address over governance and internal political friction. Tensions escalate in Bamako as unknown armed men adopt a veteran politician and lawyer Mutanga Tal. Ghana celebrates a significant leap in World Press Freedom Index, while Gambian journalists shut down proposed state controls. Still ahead in the news, we have press review, guest interview, and the sports news. So please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Turning to the media landscape, The Ghana Journalists Association has welcomed the country's improved performance in the 2026 World Press Freedom Index. According to the report, Ghana has climbed to 39th place globally, marking its highest position in 5 years. The country moved up from 52 last year to becoming the 4th ranked country on the African continent. Nadia tells us more.
Ghana's upward movement in the latest press freedom rankings comes at a time when global media conditions are declining, according to Reporters Without Borders. The country is now ranked 39th, with its overall score rising to 72.2, an improvement from the 67.13 recorded in 2025. The gains reflect steady progress across key areas including the political environment, economic conditions for media operations, and legal framework supporting press freedom. There were also modest improvements in public support for journalism, while journalist safety recorded the most notable advancement. However, despite these positive shifts, concerns remain about lingering political influence, financial constraints facing media organizations, and safety of journalists. Rebecca Ekpe is a vice president of the Ghana Journalists Association.
It's actually highlighting an improvement within Ghana's media landscape. So far as freedom of expression is concerned, some concerns remain about journalist safety and broader issues that come up on a daily basis that is brought to the desk of the Ghana Journalists Association. I would say we still need to do a bit more work to promote press freedom in Ghana and to guard jealously against interference with the work of journalists.
Government has also been reacting to the latest ranking. Minister in charge of Government Communications, Felix Kwachio-Fosu, says the improvement reflects efforts to expand free expression and strengthen media rights. He agrees, however, that more needs to be done, particularly in addressing attacks and intimidation against journalists. Within Africa, only South Africa, Namibia, and Seychelles ranked higher, while countries that previously outperformed Ghana, including Cabo Verde, Gabon, Mauritius, and Mauritania, have now fallen behind. For WDR, Nadede Tete, Accra.
However, the mood is more cautious in Banjul, the Gambia. As media practitioners marked World Press Freedom Day on May 3, the celebration was tempered by a strong call to the Gambian government to reject plans for tighter state controls over the media. Journalists are demanding a safer working environment and an end to legislative efforts that could stifle independent reporting. WADR's Sandona Mendy reports.
In the Gambia, this year's commemoration was held under the theme Honoring Our Legends, Defending Our Freedom. The event paid tribute to journalists who lost their lives in pursuit of truth, including Deda Hydra and Ibrahim Mane, while also drawing attention to ongoing threats facing the media years after the end of Yahya Jammeh's rule. Speaking at the event, the president of the Gambia Press Union, Aissatou Keita, urged authorities to repeal restrictive media laws and abandon proposals that would give the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority powers to register and license journalists and influential social media users.
The government's proposal for a new set of regulations that give the state-controlled regulator PURA a new mandate to register, suspend registration, or revoke registration of journalists and influential social media users, moderate media content, as well as the licenses of online news media outlets. These new measures contradict international standards of freedom of expression and will severely affect press freedom.
Meanwhile, concerns are growing over recent incidents involving journalists. Keba Ansu of the Alkamba Times is currently facing legal charges linked to a state minister. Justice Mamadou Dabo is also in court over a case involving the police. Other journalists have reportedly been assaulted by security officers. Media advocates warn that such incidents risk creating a climate of fear, undermining press freedom protections guaranteed under the international frameworks such as Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. As stakeholders reflect on the media's role in promoting accountability and public debate, there are renewed calls for concrete government action to ensure journalists can work freely and safely. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's rejoin Yeche Nusasetu in Abuja for the press review.
Beginning from Vanguard, former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi and former Kano State Governor Musa Kwankwaso have left the African Democratic Congress. Federal government says no Nigerian was killed. It also says no Nigerian-owned property was destroyed during the recent anti-foreigner protests in parts of South Africa. And now to Guardian. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is seeking global attention on Nigeria's internal crisis. This comes as the opposition coalition shows signs of division. At least 130 Nigerians have registered for voluntary evacuation from South Africa. This follows rising tensions linked to anti-foreigner protests. Moving over to Nigerian Tribune, President Bola Tinubu has ordered closer monitoring of protests in South Africa. The government says it is concerned about the safety of Nigerians and is demanding justice for victims. In economy, Nigerians are struggling as cooking gas now averages 1,400 naira per kilogram. This is a 40% increase in 2 months. And lastly, in Punch newspaper, United States has resumed visa processing for Nigerian and other foreign doctors. This follows a quiet policy reversal, according to the New York Times. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, our guest is Babakar Ba, president of the Forum du Justiciable in Senegal. In this interview, he reacts to statements made by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye during a major interview over the weekend. During his recent interview, the Senegalese leader reviewed his months in office, notably addressing increasingly strained relationship with its Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Here is Babakar Ba's reaction.
Well, listen, I think the president was engaged in a public reactions exercise. He may have wanted to use this platform to clarify certain things with his original party Pastef. Because if you've been following closely, the time he devoted to his supposed deputy with party activists was far greater than the time he dedicated to other issues concerning the general interest.
It was President Bassirou Diomaye Faye who acknowledged disagreements between him and his Prime Minister. So to what extent can these disagreements impact the implementation of public policies?
This divergence is already negatively impacting the economy, or at least the well-being of Senegalese citizens. Because today, as you know, we are in a difficult economic situation and people are struggling to make ends meet. Meanwhile, instead of focusing their effort on how to revitalize our economy, on how to ensure that citizens can still live decently, because lately we've seen a series of demands. You've heard about the transport workers' strike, the teachers' strike, and the health workers' union strike. So, I think there are issues of general interest that should concern them. But today, all these issues are on hold, simply because we are being told about a disagreement between the President of the Republic and his Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Unfortunately, this disagreement is negatively impacting the economic development of our country.
You said that it's already impacting the Senegalese economy. Can we say today that the economic crisis Senegal is experiencing is necessarily linked to this disagreement between the two men?
Well, of course. From the moment you inherit a country that wasn't really economically strong, so today I think they should focus their effort and energy on figuring out how to ensure the Senegalese economy can still prosper. But all the questions revolve around Bassirou Diomaye, who will be candidate in 2029. This is a move that is currently having a negative impact on our country's development.
Let's talk about the presidential political funds. As a civil society actor, do you agree with maintaining these funds?
No, I confess on the issue of transparency and good governance, the president hasn't convinced me. Take the issue of political funds. For those who don't know, in their platform, they promised the Senegalese people that once in power, they would abolish them. The first candidate, Ousmane Sonko, never believed in political funds. Now, having come to power, not only have they not abolished them, but they've maintained them. And we've heard the president say that these funds would be used discreetly because their distribution must be done with greater discretion. And honestly, I was disappointed because they are encouraging opacity with funds, public money that belongs to the Senegalese people. But their use must be completely transparent. Where there is discretion, there is opacity. And where there is opacity, there will be mismanagement. So, how is the use of these funds problematic?
Babakar Ba is the president of the Forum du Justiciable in Senegal. Now in the world of sports, beginning with basketball, as the matchups for the 2026 Basketball Africa League playoffs are set. Each of the 8 teams now knows its path to the final. High-quality matchups are expected, most notably ASC Ville de Dakar will face Al Ali, and Petro Luanda will once again take on Dar City. 8 teams are vying to succeed Al Ali, the Libyan club champions of the 2025 season, are also in contention for another title. The champions begin their final phase against Club Africain. Fools Rabat will face the surprising Rwanda club RSSB Tigers. The 2 other matches feature rematches between teams that competed in the same conference. In football, the 2025-2026 FASO fourth season, the top division of Burkina Faso is drawing to a close. While the champion has been known for several weeks, the teams that will be relegated to the second division will still be decided. That has now changed following the 29th and Punitime match days after a 4-0 defeat against Rahimo FC, RCB, a legendary club in the Bobo Dioulasso City Championship, has been officially relegated to the second division. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudu Ju for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.